You may recognize this cactus, and it's known as Schlumbergera. I believe this species name is truncata. This is probably a little bit more of a Thanksgiving cactus based on the flowers that it gives me, which unfortunately it's not flowering right now, so I can't actually show you those. But truncata actually just means that it's a little bit more square shape, and it's probably referring to the phylloclades right here, which are the stems that kind of look like leaves. Now, there has been so many different hybrids and cultivars that's why I said I don't know if this is truly a Schlumbergera truncata, but because there's just been so many crossings and hybrids of these plants, so that's like the Christmas cacti, even the Easter cactus, I believe they put that into Schlumbergera, and before it was actually in a different genus. So there's probably a lot of hybridization that actually goes on with these plants. So knowing the actual species name of them is really difficult unless you're actually working with a grower who has been very anal retentive about actually getting and understanding his or her crosses. But this is a plant that I feel like a lot of our mothers and grandmothers had growing up, and so and if you're into kind of jungle cactus, then a Schlumbergera is probably one that you have had for quite some time. It's a beautiful pendant basket plant, and you might actually see that some of them get a little bit woodier, and this plant can get actually quite large and woody. I think my mother's had these like large woody stems, if I can remember it correctly, as I was growing up, because one of the things that my mother had was a Christmas cactus or another type of a Schlumbergera. And these are, they have to have a photo period. They go through this photo period of having a certain amount of lightness and darkness and even a little bit of a cooler period in order to be able to reflower again. But it's not such an exact science when it comes to Schlumbergera. You could get it a little bit wrong, it'll still flower, but it might not flower as much. Now, you want to have a little bit more of a well-draining mixture with this plant because it is one that doesn't want to be moist at all times. It is a jungle cactus, so it has usually a little bit more higher humidity, but if you don't have that higher humidity in your house, then you're not going to necessarily have to, it's not going to hurt the plant, if you will. Oh, and I should say, like, here's what some of the new stems look like. So they start to grow after this. And actually, that's one of the great ways to actually propagate this plant is by getting a couple of these stems. They make it very easy to propagate. And then it starts to callus off, and you could actually put that in your potting medium mix, and then it will start to grow up again. So if it starts to get, kind of bare in certain areas and it's just kind of growing green down below, you could always trim it back and actually stick more after it's calloused over or kind of hardened off. As far as watering goes, you want to water this in relation to the light that you're giving it. I have to say that I was growing this specific plant in a little bit of a lower light condition, and it was not actually doing well. And actually I found that to be very interesting because a lot of Schlumbergeras can actually manage with a little bit more of a lower to moderate light. This one, maybe, it just couldn't or didn't want to handle that kind of that moderate light condition. I started to give it a little bit more light, so pulled back maybe about 4 feet from my southwest facing window, and whoop, it perked right back up, and it seemed to really enjoy that. So I'm going to be keeping it there, is I guess what I'm saying, because it just seems to be a little bit happier there. As far as fertilizing this plant goes, you could just have a gentle cacti fertilizer, so sometimes a 122, 247, 347. Doing that when it's growing during, on a monthly or even a quarterly basis is going to be great. You could probably even get it up to a bi-weekly basis during the time. It really depends on how much it's actually growing for you. I've had no pest pressures with my Schlumbergera whatsoever as well, so awesome, way to go with that. If you've had any pest pressures or if you're growing this differently, tell me in the comments below because I am just so curious. I really find that these plants are amenable to a range of conditions, and I'd love to hear how you're growing them. And because they've been kind of growing in our homes for so long across so many of our family members, I'm sure that they have different ways that they've been growing them as well. What else can I tell you about this plant? Did I say where it's native to? I don't know if I did, but I think it's native to Brazil, where a lot of these jungle cacti are native to. But I have this kind of sneaky suspicion that actually there's some that are in Southeast Asia as well. So some people from Southeast Asia may actually be able to tell me whether that is true or not. Although in Southeast Asia, I mean, people are growing all sorts of different kinds of plants out there, so they might have feel like they're native out there, native growers, but they've actually just been brought over and cultivated in their areas. Otherwise, I kind of feel like this is a plant that everybody should have because everybody and their mother had this plant growing up. So this is Schlumbergera truncata.